recommendations, and then if people have got, I mean, rather than run through them, have people got any additional questions, and then just a general acceptance that the guidance has been given, unless somebody's had an aha moment, in which case we'll just come to that as we go. Aaron, did you?
And are you referring to just these items?
Yeah, we're just going through them,
okay.
In the order that they come up.
Sweet.
Okay, so I'm just going to finish off on the waterways one. So on Monday, there was a number of questions in regards to where it actually sat in regards to the building consent and the qualifications, as got talked about. And there was a question in regards to, well, what could we do for 250k? So we will bring back that information, but there was general support to actually get more information on that. So we will get that information and share it with the councillors and for the next meeting. In regards to the next three, which are all relation to parks, we had Andrew here on Monday who gave really good support and explanation to the staff recommendations, and the feedback that we received on Monday was that councillors were in general consensus agreeing with the staff recommendations to not recommend to proceed with them. And on that basis, they're up there for transparency, but we are not going to pursue those. So unless anyone's got any other questions of Andrew, I'm going to keep going.
Good, thank you. Yanni?
Just very simply, has the resident survey been taken into account in these responses? And if so, how?
Yes, it has. If you look at the first one, for example, that lists where the concerns came from. It wasn't so much associated to submissions to the annual plan. It was reflecting on the resident surveys.
Right, so the resident survey is showing us that we've got a problem, but we're recommending do nothing.
No, the resident survey is providing opinion on where they'd like to see improvement, and the staff responses that we believe we have scope across our parks operations to address those.
I think that's the key.
So is that?
I think that's the key important message that was given on Monday, and you might want to just reiterate
Sure.
clarity for the public to hear.
Sure.
It isn't that we are ignoring the perspective of the residents, absolutely not, but you believe you can achieve this without having to put more money on budget, and I think that's what you should reiterate, Andrew.
Correct, yes.
Sorry, and just in the 150, that's stuff that you think we can do with an existing budget, is that right? And then the other stuff is new money, or is that the 150k transferred across?
No, what I'm suggesting is there were concerns that we weren't doing enough of that work. The numbers quoted articulate for councillors what it costs to do more of that. My response on Monday was not to recommend more money, and that's because our operational budget overall is in good shape, and staff are already working on how they can utilise more, take money essentially out of one area and shift it across into the community park space.
Okay, maybe that just needs
and
to
address the issue. So that's why we're not recommending an increase in budget. We're saying we don't need that increase in budget.
Right, Sarah and Aaron?
Yeah, thanks. So just clarifying, you could see a demonstrable shift across to make it look better without additional budget.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is if you look at our budget right now, our operational budget right now, we're in a very healthy space. The way Parks operates, we have different streams of work and budget. We're saying we're going to find efficiencies within our budget.
Yeah, no, that's fine. It's just that the way the words that are public read is that to get a shift, to make it look better, we would need to add more money. But you're saying in words that that's not the case.
Right, sure.
Yeah, I just wonder whether, again...
That's all. It's just the...
I see what you're saying.
If the language of this could be updated to
we can modify that language.
That oral advice.
The guys
Aaron?
may have already identified where they think the shifts need to be, so, yeah.
Aaron?
Yeah, so at community board level, one of the biggest complaints we get is around the state of some of the parks and little reserves and pocket bits and blah, blah. They're regular. Do all of the complaints that come in throughout the year or the ones that go through the call centre, email, so on, do they get fed into this? Or is we doing this just purely based on what we've received back in our annual plan submissions? Because
No, we use a series of sources of information. We use all the CSR information that you've alluded to, resident satisfaction surveys, annual plan submissions, and also our independent auditing of our contract works. It all helps paint the picture of where the real issues are. And it's important to keep things in context too. Sometimes we get a theme that might come through in a resident satisfaction survey, but the numbers are very low. When you go through the detail and dig out what the issues really are. So there's common themes. There's common themes. We use a range of information to focus on it. And then we look within our own means to try to address those year on year. And the point that was made, I think Dawn actually made the point, that we're exposed to every year. Like this year we had an incredibly wet spring and summer, and we had unprecedented growth. I think one of the months was actually a record wet month for summer. So it's not appropriate to live with budgets that could deal with that sort of thing. We have to look year to year to year to year, and we set our baseline of our maintenance based on that information.
So the other way then is that when you do your plan for the year, do you say, okay, we had this many CSRs and complaints last year over our parks and reserves. This year we're looking to move that number, the dial will go down, or we're going to accept we get 30 a day all year round, or whatever the number is, or 3 a day, whatever. But which do you have a plan on that?
We always set an annual plan. We have to, because we have a budget. But a lot of the things are not just addressed by Opex; they're also addressed by improvements in CapEx. So it's a bit too detailed to go into in a whole lot of detail here. I guess what I'm saying is we believe we have enough resources to be able to start to focus now on addressing some of the things that residents typically tell us about. Garden maintenance is one. So you're going to see a fairly significant increase in urban park garden renewals through capital over the next 3 years. So you'll start to see an impact there.
And that
I just wonder whether, Andrew, because you know how you regularly brief the community boards, I just wonder whether that could be part of a community board briefing is that breakdown of their local parks and then linking it back to the CSRs and the resident survey, because I think that might be quite good. I mean, in some parts of the area, like particularly on Banks Peninsula, you've got the reserves management committees and a lot more local input into parks. And I think there's a lot of people out there that would want to be engaged in a sort of a process of working collaboratively with the council to get these things done. Yeah.
No problem.
So I'll leave that with you. Sam?
No, it's just probably more for public benefit. So just so we're really clear, because this is the kind of stuff we should be embracing, I think. If we've got levels of service that are set and the managers are coming along saying we can deliver those levels of service within their budget, then I don't know why we'd spend too much time talking about it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I
not
agree,
you, I'm
which
just
is
saying
why
for the public
I'm
benefit.
shifting it from the annual plan discussion back to the community boards so that there's better understanding of the issues
No,
at
I
that
agree with you.
local
I'm just saying
level.
for the wider public benefit, we've got a standard that the team are confident they can deliver to.
Yep.
They don't want any more money. That's a good thing. We should
Yep,
be happy with
moving on.
Yeah.
So, look, thank you, Andrew. That
Celeste has a question.
Oh, Celeste and then Jimmy.
Hi, Andrew, just to quickly, just wanted to ask about the park ranger resources, why that wasn't recommended, if it was a deliverability thing or if there was another issue there, because I've heard this quite strongly.
Yeah, sure. Look, we can always do with more hands on the ground, obviously. But what we're looking at is, what I mentioned the other day, is we're looking at it's more of a task force approach, which is, again, utilising capital better rather than OPEX. And it's come out of some learnings that the regional parks guys have had with the Jobs for Nature program that the Crown funded. And so we just want a little bit of time to actually work out the best way to approach this. We always get requests from the public through annual plans for the regional parks rangers to be supported more. very difficult thing for me to say no to. And I guess I'll put this on the table. It's not a long-term no. It's actually just, we want the opportunity to look inwards and find better ways to use the money that we have already. And again, I touch on capital, and Parks has not been a good performer in the past in utilising its capital budgets. So I think we've got to look inwards before we just start saying, throw more at it and it'll get better.
And I agree with your point, Andrew. I just want to make sure that and I know you'll be on top of this, that there isn't a lag between the jobs for nature funding and then, the people that are already in the organisation doing that work and then funding for those roles. The other quick question is around the camper van costings for the red zone. With the freedom changes, the changes to the freedom bylaw, I'm aware that there's sort of more restrictions on where people can camp along that coastal zone, which makes sense. Is the costing sort of very accurate, or is that kind of a ballpark figure? Because I would have thought that with self-contained vehicles through the Motorhome Association, this could be done in a very sort of pop-up, simplified manner for self-contained vehicles, and it could be quite a good way to manage the overflow that's now going to be coming from that coastal zone.
But they've actually only asked for feasibility study money here.
Yeah, that's correct. So, but it's not just money. So even if we go external, that number, I presume, and I'll have to check with Kelly and the planning team, is based on having to go external to external contractors. We just don't have the resource. We're constantly being, sorry, this sounds a bit whingy, but we're constantly being asked to do more planning here, more planning there, more planning there. So unless there's a massive investment in that, and these ad hoc things that come along are constantly distracting the guys from the work that they are heavily invested in and trying to complete. So all we're saying here is the timing is not right. But your question around the cost, I don't doubt the cost is about right.
Okay,
we will have to go external and employ external resources. They're going to have to do all sorts of investigations on infrastructure and various other things. It's always more complex than it seems. If you're going to do a feasibility properly, we need to come back with accurate information on what it would actually cost, what the benefits are. You need to do a business case approach to it.
Sorry, just one further question on that. If we weren't looking at doing a permanent one, if it was a temporary activation of the space, do we need to do a full kind of feasibility study, or can we say self-contained?
I'd have to come back to you on that, Celeste. But again, that will mean that we will stop doing other plans that we're currently in flight with.
Cool. Thanks, Andrew, for the further info.
Jimmy?
Thank you. My question is, Andrew, regarding the scope of these parks, is cover all kind of park, sports club, regional park, local pocket park, or just focus on bigger park?
Sorry, are you referring to the previous slide, the Opex one?
Yeah.
It's primarily in the urban parks, so the community parks. So that's where the bulk of the work is done. There's about 1,000 of those. So that response is about community parks, neighbourhood parks, sports parks, and to a degree some of the land drainage work we do.
Okay, so let's also cover the reserve in the berm or not?
Not streets.
Yeah,
doesn't cover streets.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Yanni.
Oh, don't sound so happy. I've put the question in around getting a list of the program level sports field renewals. And
it's being worked on currently.
Yeah, cool.
Sorry, which one of these is this? It's not one of these, so just stop it.
Well, how do you want to deal with questions that have been put in around Opex?
I know. I'm sorry. We're dealing with the matters in front of us today.
Okay.
So,
I was just concerned around the capacity issue that was raised earlier.
Thank you. Right. Thank you, Andrew.
Right. We're just going to quickly go through the heritage and so both from Monday's briefing, the heritage incentive grant, the councillors or elected members were supportive of the staff recommendation, not to add anything onto that.
Yep.
And again, with the Canterbury Museum operating levy, noting that we are working very closely with the museum and will continue to do that going forward to the next year. We, again, elected members gave direction that they were comfortable with staff recommendation. And as with Edgware Pool, noting that there's been nothing in the submissions that would change the approach in the draft annual plan, conditions of that funding is there, and again, elected members were comfortable with that.
Right, so that's that is the guidance that we're giving staff, Anne?
We are waiting for a little bit more information on the impact of if we don't raise the levy, what impact that will have on other councils in terms of their contribution to the museum, and also just the actual amount that a 5% increase in the levy would have on a person's rates bill.
I thought that generally this had been discussed on Monday.
Oh, right.
No.
So sorry, have I missed that information? I'm sorry.
Yeah, that last one that you asked, it wasn't a lot. I think it was an extra $1 something per average resident. But if you haven't got it, because I've approved it, I'm sorry if it hasn't come through.
These are questions we asked the other day.
These were questions that were asked on Monday, and notwithstanding, I think probably the best way to describe it is notwithstanding the answers to these questions were outstanding, we were happy to provide the guidance that Leah's just described.
Yeah.
So Anne, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I may have missed it. I'm sorry.
Okay. So we now